So I'm going to take you guys way back, 1920s North London. So we have a marriage going on. There's two people getting married, except catch is they're not in love. No, a rabbi decided that they were compatible enough to be wed. And so he was a Londoner who was very difficult to talk to, although he did deal with diamonds. She was from Spain, and she was increasingly becoming more and more deaf, although she had a lovely singing voice and was a charming woman. They were married, and they had a decently nice marriage. They had, by 1932, they had two daughters, Irene and Phylis Palenbaum. Irene, the oldest, was a little brutish, meaning she was a little more, I guess today's tomboy. She'd be a tomboy today. Had a little bit of a short temper, a short fuse. And then the opposite of that was my Nana, Phylis Palenbaum. I feel weird describing her. She was a sweet little girl. I don't know. She was into girly things. And they had a pretty good life, They loved to learn. And they loved their family. They loved their mom, who always sang to them. And their dad would bring home diamonds. Like, what's cooler than that? But in 1939, the war was underway, and their father had to leave his job diamond setting to be working with Hadley Woods, which they built aircrafts for the war. And so it was in 1939 that things shifted. While his whole family was home, my great-grandfather leapt out of the second-story window of their flat onto the stores below. He was still breathing, but when they took him to the hospital, he died of his injuries 3 days later. There was little time to reflect. And in the next year, things had gotten so bad for Jews in London that they could no longer go to school, go to temple, or be seen in public, that they were forced to evacuate to South Wales, where they would live with 3 or 4 other families in unbearable conditions. They were small, cramped flats. There was a tiny kitchen with maybe 1 or 2 oven heads, or burners, 1 or 2 burners for 3 to 4 families. And one of these flats had no bathroom whatsoever. There was one incident where they believed they could be caught by the Gestapo, and so they and 3 other families sat in the living room with gas masks on, completely still and silent for 6 straight hours. That wasn't the end of the torment for them. No. Bombings happened in 3 phases. You had the Battle of London, the B-1s, and then the B-2s. Luckily, in 1945, they were all still together. My grandma was about 12 years old, and they moved back to North London, where they don't go back to the same house. It's gone from the bombings, and they have to live in one of the new construction districts with a lower average income. And my Nana just went to school sporadically that entire time. There were schools in South Wales where they would teach all children, no matter their age. But it was very simple stuff, ABCs and coloring and drawing was all they were teaching. And so when they moved back to North Wales, when they moved back to North London, they went to school until what would be today's 8th grade. She was 15, my Nana was 15 years old, and she dropped out of school and she applied for jobs. On her first job, they allowed her to go to night school for a semester to learn shorthand. And after that, she was completely done with all her formal education. Her sister Irene had gotten married to a man named Sonny. And my Nana worked as a secretary until she was 21 with the insurance claims manager. And Sonny and Irene decide they want to move to America. They go to New York first, and then they make their way down to California. My Nana had been seeing a man, and he loved London and hated Americans, and so he was difficult to talk it into, but they made a compromise. As every couple compromises, they moved to California. That marriage, fortunately, did not work out. It didn't end in an ugly divorce, but it was a divorce. They had no children. And that's when my Nana was able to meet Sheldon, who had 2 sons, and the youngest daughter was my mom. Growing up and hearing all these stories, besides taking away the fact that there's a little bit of crazy in my family, I've learned to be resilient but not ready for whatever life might throw at you. In this pandemic, wasn't ready, but I've adjusted and made a decent situation out of it. Another thing, and the final note is, in life, sometimes there just aren't any positives, and it's not your job to try to pull any out. Your job is to wake up every morning with the enthusiasm to still laugh, maybe sing a little bit, and most importantly, to speak with authenticity.